Welcome to Leading People with me, Jerry Murray. This episode of Leading People is brought to you by Wide Circle, helping you make better talent decisions. To learn more, visit widecircle.eu. That's WIDECIRCLE.eu. Leading People is a podcast which features insightful conversations with leading people about leading people. Yes, that's a play on words. In each episode, you get tips from leading people such as CEOs, HR professionals, authors, and thought leaders on all aspects of leading people, including how to attract, engage, develop, and grow talent to build successful organizations. And we provide insights on how to lead yourself so you can consistently perform at your best. For this episode, I caught up with author and master trainer of NLP, David Shepherd. We covered a lot in our conversation, with the central theme being understanding inner and outer leadership, and why this has become so important in a post-COVID era. David Shepherd, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for inviting me. Love to be here. That's great stuff.
Great to have you. We know each other quite some years now, and I have to say, as a wee plug up front, you run some of the best training courses on the market, but we'll get to those later.
Thank you.
I think for a lot of people out there who don't know you yet, let's just go through a little bit. How did you get here, David? Were there some of these sort of little epiphany moments or little pivotal moments which sort of contributed to where you're at today with the performance partnership and all the other work you're doing with NLP and other wonderful tools?
Yeah, so I mean, originally I was a Elvis impersonator. But my mum and dad didn't want me to do that. So I went into a serious business. I worked for Reuters in London, trading room systems. But that kind of didn't kind of float my boat. So in 1990, I left Reuters. I was doing well at Reuters. People thought I was absolutely mad to set up my own business, which I managed to make a complete catastrophe of. Lost the house, lost the car, lost the wife. Still can't remember where I left her. And I wound up in this little bedsit. But what I did discover is NLP. So by 1993, I decided I'd been doing sales trainings. I've been doing NLP sales trainings for a lot of the life insurance companies in the UK.
Yeah.
Because life insurance was big then, and there was lots of salespeople on commission only, and some of them were making a lot of money, some of them weren't, and I thought that was my destiny, was to do NLP sales trainings. So it was going quite well. I was making money, and then I went, if I'm going to do this, I need to become a practitioner of NLP. And I checked out the companies in the UK in 1993, and I got introduced to NLP by Tony Robbins, right? So it's like high energy, success, money, etc., etc. And the companies in 1993 were not like that at all. So I did some research and I found Tad James. Unfortunately, the now late Tad James.
That's right.
That I co-authored the book Presenting Magically with. and I went out all the way out to California to go and do the training with him. And it just completely changed my whole idea about what I was going to do. I still do sales trainings, of course. I've got one coming up soon. But, I hadn't really understood the power of what NLP and timeline therapy and hypnosis and Huna had really got to offer.
Mm-hmm.
A business person. I was a business person. I was a struggling business person. And I came back and the Performance Partnership was born.
Yeah.
That's 28 years ago. And
you took it all the way to as far as you could go with your NLP, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I'm a master trainer of NLP. There are 4 levels. There's practitioner, master practitioner, trainer, master trainer. I thought I was just going out to do practitioner. Right. But then when I discovered what was there in Master Prac, I got like, I want to be a Master Prac.
Yeah. You almost, if you're enjoying the first 2 or 3 days, you almost make your decision for Master Prac after 2 or 3 days, don't you? You're sitting there going, let's get this one. I want to get to the next piece, don't I?
Yeah. It's like, okay, wow. I didn't even realize that was available. So, you get a Master Prac and then because of my experience on Prac and Master Prac, my entire vision about what I was doing changed because it had such a massive impact on me that I really wanted to go. I want to be in a position where I can enable other people to do this.
Yeah.
I thought you should learn this at school.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was at school in the 60s, you learned that the Battle of Hastings was 1066. Another useful information like that.
That was cheap at the time. 1066 would be worth at least 20 today, 30 euro, 30 quid, right?
I had a friend of mine. I was doing an interview with Brandon Block, who's a Ibiza big DJ, and I mentioned that, and he went like, "Hey, David, you got to be careful with that. Could have somebody's eye out with that."
But I want to just pick you up. Yeah,
I fell on the floor laughing. I want
to just pick you up on this thing. You said your vision changed about what you wanted to do, but isn't there a story about your vision changing on another level? Was there a metaphorical, physical connection going on?
Yeah. So I got into NLP, and I was going to go do that training because I wanted to run the world's best NLP sales trainings.
Yeah.
That was genuinely why I went there. And then the experience that I had personally blew me away. Because I'd gone there for sales trainings, but I got a couple of really major emotional events in my life. One was my dad dying, because my dad died in 1986. Mm-hmm. And he was only 52. So I'm 6 years older than my dad now.
Right.
Which is a bit of a... It did my head in.
Right. Yeah.
And also, when I set up my first business, it didn't go well. So as a result of that, I ended up getting divorced. I lost the house. I lost everything.
Yeah.
And I thought that life was just about getting on with this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Carry the load,
Yeah.
And then in 1 week of the practitioner's training, those emotions had gone. And I didn't go there expecting that because I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
The other thing that I did discover when I was out on my practitioner training was this thing called HUNA. And, you know, my background, my family, Church of England, you know, religious. But then I discovered this thing that wasn't religion, wasn't NLP, but brought some other things in for me, like, you know, energy and working with energy. And I think the world is a lot more open today with this idea of energy and an increasing energy. You know, Google, if you'd looked probably 5 or 6 years ago, the major searches in the personal empowerment, personal improvement space was about how do I make more money?
Yeah.
How do I get wealthy? How do I get rich?
Yeah.
It's not that now. The major thing that people are searching for is how do I get more energy?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, from an NLP point of view, what people have done is they've chunked up. And they've gone, the more energy I have, the more money I'll make. The more energy I have, the more successful I'll be in my business, career, etc. The more energy I have, the better my relationships will be. The more energy I have, the better my health will be. The more energy I have, the greater I'll be with my family and my kids and all that kind of stuff. So,
isn't there the notion, David, because you're an expert in this, where, I mean, is some of this maybe linked to value shifts where people's values are realigning, where the energy is also, they're either realizing their values are out of sync and therefore the energy is depleted, or they're aligning their values to what they really want. And I think COVID might have contributed a bit to that. You see a lot written about it. How significant would that be in your eyes?
I think it's massive. Because with COVID and the pandemic, it put people into a forced hold position, and you were with your partner, you were with your family 24/7.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do anything about that. Which is why, in a lot of ways, it's been a really tough time for people. Not only because of that, but because of the isolation and because of, a number of other things. So I think it's had people reevaluate what's really important to them. And yes, what I personally went through is I went through a values shift. I didn't want to work in the corporate world anymore, which is if you looked at motivation in two directions, towards what you want, away from what you don't want. I left Reuters because of complete away from motivation.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be in the corporate world anymore. Yeah. But, there are downsides to away from motivation.
Yeah.
Because you're focusing on what you don't want, which means you tend to create it. I don't know if I've actually mentioned this on any of the trainings you've done with me, Jerry, but that's the reason why I lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was focusing on losing the house, losing the car, losing the whatever. And then my ex-boss at Reuters, Peter, called me. Now, this will put a time frame on it, because I called him back in a phone box.
Yeah.
Can you remember those? Phone box.
Well, if the listeners out there can't remember what a phone box is, you look it up on Google.
So I call him up.
Oh, you had to dial as well. I bet you had to dial one of those little tick, 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 tick.
Yeah. No, not buttons. No.
No.
You know, that kind of thing. That's how old I am. And so I call up Peter, and he says he's got a new job. He's got a new role as sales director of, one of the biggest trading room systems companies in the world. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'd like to offer you a job. This is after I got into NLP. I'd like to offer you a job. It's £100,000 basic.
Wow.
Plus commission. So probably, knowing you'd be on about 250K.
Mm-hmm.
And expense account. Mm-hmm. And a BMW M3.
Yeah.
That, this is in the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money now, but like at the time, it was like, oh. And I thought, I've got to admit, Jerry, I did actually go like, okay, maybe I'll do it for a couple of years, get myself back on track, get a house, get the whole thing sorted, pay off my debts and all that kind of stuff. I did think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But, a very good friend of mine, Sally, I went to talk to her, and she said, well, is that what you really want to do? And I went, no, I want to do NLP.
Yes.
So she said, so phone Peter back and tell him thank you, but no thanks. And I've hated her every single minute since then. I'm just kidding.
She might be listening, David. She might be listening. If you're listening, Sally, hello. I'll try and contain him from now on, okay?
I'm just joking. It was the best advice I'd had, which was do what your heart says, not what your head says,
Yeah, and it goes back to that. There's a nice phrase about, a lot of people struggle with saying no, and somebody wise said, to say no, you have to be able to say yes to yourself. And if you can only say yes to yourself if you know what's important to you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, people out there might be wondering about this and saying, where is this all going, right? So, because I want to get into the leadership and I want to talk more about energy and state management, we just want to stay with this for a little bit, because I am going to bet there's a lot of people out there at the moment wondering, in the same situation you're in, either they still have the job or maybe they've lost the job, maybe things are uncertain. And what advice would you give them, David, if they're out there thinking, my God, this guy resonates with me and he did this, was it 30 years ago? Tell us.
I did it 30 years ago. 31 years ago.
Advise these our listeners out there, if they're finding themselves in this thought pattern now, in this state, this sense, what could they start to do to get more clarity and around this?
Well, I think the thing that really drove me was something I mentioned earlier, my dad. So my dad was a senior lecturer at the Department of Fashion and Design at the Trent Polytechnic, which is now the Trent University, which he would hate, by the way, because he loved the idea of Polytechnic being hands-on, not, theory and all that kind of stuff. And he loved what he did. But he always said to me, when I retire, I'm going to write books. I'm going to have a hi-fi shop and a radio shop.
Yeah.
All of which I've inherited that passion. But then, very surprisingly, he died at the age of 52.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that had this real impact on me. Do it now.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And a lot of people go like, "Wow, that was really brave in 1990." It wasn't brave. It was just innocence, I think. Was like, I didn't go like, "Wow, I'm going to make this brave leap." It was, I just went into it not knowing what could go wrong.
Okay.
And a lot did go wrong. But then I'm still here 31 years later.
So there's a few interesting things in what you're talking about there, because you've talked about the away from, which is, I had the same experience. I wanted out. One day I woke up and I went, I'm out. And then I went, okay, now what? And it's not actually a very nice place to be, because actually it's probably better to decide what you want before you decide to jump. There's also this idea of would have, could have, should have. If you make it to that age where you sit there and say, well, I could have been, would have been, etc. Now, the thing that for me I think is really important, and I think you can fill in this gap, is it's great to have the aspiration, it's great to have the thinking, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there are going, but I don't know how to do it. And that's where skills like the NLP skills, as you said, we should teach this in school. I've had this in NLP. When I've been teaching NLP practitioners, I've had hands go up repeatedly saying, why is this not taught in schools?
Yeah, tell me about it.
And you go, but let's say, okay, it isn't taught in schools, but people are in their adulthood now, and there a lot of people, I guess, in the 20s and late 30s, and that's a time when people like to reflect. So there might be people out there saying, David Shepherd resonates with me. I feel that I want to do this. I could see myself doing it, and I'm scared, and I don't know if I could, what if it goes wrong, etc. So what would you advise people to start to do now if they're in that situation?
To be honest, Jerry, and I did have to think about that question, because it's a great question. There is so much uncertainty in the world at this point in time that if there's something that you really want to do and you've always thought about doing it and you wondered whether you could or whether it would work or whatever, I'd say just do it. I've got a very dear friend of mine, and she just had 3 people die unexpectedly this week.
This week, wow.
This week, and some late 50s, same age as me, some early 30s.
Wow.
And, the medical profession at this point in time can't explain why that happened. It was unexpected. Mm-hmm. So I'd say if there's something that you really want, you've always wanted to do it. Now, the thing I love about NLP is that you can apply it to anything.
Yeah.
No matter what it is that you want to do, you can use it to create success. I mean, I chose that I wanted to teach NLP, but equally, I've gone and taught some of the most successful sales teams in the world. I've gone in to teach how to use NLP as a presenter with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Microsoft, Eagle Star. I think I've been bought out by Zurich Life now. Mm-hmm. You can apply it to anything. It is a success technology. But the thing, Jerry, I think is the most important thing for people at the moment is to apply to self.
In the next part of our conversation, David explains what he means by inner and outer leadership. He also reveals what creates unnecessary conflict at work and how to deal with it. He goes on to highlight the power of influence in our daily lives and much, much more.
Because it doesn't matter what you're able to do with these skills, or any skills for that matter. If you're not in a good place, none of it will work.
Yep.
If you're anxious, if you're afraid, if you're scared, if you've got doubts, it doesn't matter what you've got. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
So you've got to get yourself sorted out first.
Right. And this is really the point where I think we can start to move into this idea of what does that mean? And I've had people asking me about this concept of something called state management. Listeners have said to me, why did you get somebody on to talk about this? And this leads us on to this idea of self-leadership and being able to basically run yourself. I mean, be able to manage yourself and turn up and show up in a state that is going to give you the best possible chance of achieving, succeeding, whatever. So maybe, and you've got this idea, I think, around inner and outer leadership, because maybe we could start to unpack that a little bit now and some of the techniques and tools that help people with that. Could we go there? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm doing this with a number of major corporates at the moment because leadership has come onto the radar. And they want leadership skills. And I've just gone, no. I'll give you leadership skills, but the people who you want as your leaders have got to get themselves sorted out first, which is where the idea of inner leadership comes in. So the idea for this really came in way before I learned NLP. It was, when I was at Reuters, late 80s, I subscribed to Harvard Business Review. And I remember reading this report in Harvard Business Review that said that they believed that 80 to 90% of all conflict in business was as a result of inappropriate semantic response, which is where somebody said something and the person interpreted it completely the wrong way and had a negative emotion, like they got angry or they got sad or they got afraid or they felt hurt or they felt guilty.
Yeah.
Now, this is in the days before email. So what is it now? This is when people actually walked to somebody's desk and had a conversation with them, or at least picked up the phone and spoke to them, rather than just banging out an email. So, but even then, I thought it was 80%. Then I think it was INSEAD, it's around about the same time, late 80s, did this study and said that 90% of all CEOs of major organizations in Europe demonstrated psychotic tendencies.
Right.
And that's in 1980. I mean, this is before pandemic or any of those kind of things. So this is what I mean by the inner leader, and I'm doing this with a number of organisations at the moment, which is the inner leader. So working with people using the technologies that we've got to empty the glass, because I think people are full. And they're full of emotions like anger and sadness and fear and hurt and guilt, which means the slightest thing that somebody says, boom, flashpoint.
Yeah.
Either they get angry, flashpoint, or, I worked with a private client of mine recently, and her glass was full of sadness because her husband and her brother died in a very close period of time. Mm-hmm. And she was an HR she is an HR director of a major insurance company in the city. And somebody said something to her. They didn't intend it to have this impact, but she just crumpled. She just burst into tears. Yeah. So I think now, with everything that's gone on with like COVID and people being isolated, etc., people are full. So you're not going to go bolting on leadership skills until they've got themselves sorted out. Until they've released their anger, their sadness, their fear, their hurt, their guilt. But also, a lot of people now, because of what's happened, is they've got doubts about themselves.
Yeah.
Can I do this? Am I good enough? And we can get rid of that too. We talked, a little bit before about away from values. Being motivated away from, I think that's obviously just gone off the roof. And we can enable people to let go of those away from us so they can become completely towards motivated in of themselves.
Yeah.
Now we can give them some influencing skills, not leadership skills, influencing skills. I think, the days of hierarchical organizations where you go, you do this, and people would go like, okay, I'll do it, are gone. We're into more matrix and flat organizational structures. Yeah. And even when I was at Reuters in the late 80s, to be able to achieve the goals that I was given, I needed to enroll people that didn't report into me.
Yeah.
So I could say, do this, and there's no reason for them to do it. So I think, in business and in life, we don't get what we deserve. we get what we influence.
Yeah. And it's actually true, David, because I'm doing a lot of work at that leadership level, and I'm helping a lot with deciding who should be promoted and who should be brought on their bus and that. And influencing is coming up all the time. It's like this person needs to be able to get their team to perform, but they also need to get their peers to buy in. They need to be able to manage upwards. It's almost like they need to have this 360 view on the world, and they need to have the versatility to adapt to the different contexts. So it's not just they need one type of influencing. They need to understand and be able to read a context sufficiently well to know that this approach works over here, but that approach will not work with this group of people. And,
Right.
and this is also an NLP thing where teaching people this versatility and flexibility of response comes into play. And I fear, like you do a little bit, in terms of not in the emotional sense of fear, but I have this sense that it's often, as you said, this bolting on idea that they say, let's give them some more skills, when actually the more we're looking into these people, we're looking at, are they aligned within themselves even before they start influencing? Because if you're not feeling good about yourself and you're getting these semantic cues out there, these responses, and you've got any doubts within yourself or anything underneath the surface, I think you used to say, people often bring you their stuff, right? But groups of people will bring you their stuff as well if you're in the room with them, because you're probably focused, because it's running in your neurology, you're aware of it. So if you spot any signs of it, guess what? It's going to amplify, isn't that right?
Yep.
So tell us, how are these leaders? So you got these guys or these ladies in a room, right? And I know some of the techniques you're talking about now, and I think for our listeners, if you want, you can certainly follow up with David after this to really get these experiences. But how are they responding to this? This idea that you're going to take them through some of these processes. What sort of reactions are you getting?
Desperate. They're going, oh, please. No, really.
Yeah.
I think people are in such a tough place right now.
Yeah.
Because of what's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a bit like when I did all the programs for the veterans, as you know, I did. These guys were in a desperate place.
For our listeners, that's people who've been to war, because in some countries they might not have the concept. So people who've been in some of the most serious, significant conflict zones in the world. Yeah, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc.
Yeah. Right? So as a result of what they experienced, they had anxiety disorders, PTSD, depression, whatever, and nothing had worked. And then we went in and we did programs for them, and we enabled them to turn their lives around in 3 days. To the point where even some people came in on crutches and left with them under their arm. I mean, the most miraculous things. And, I had a client contact me. I'd done a breakthrough session with her before the first lockdown. And then she contacted me again and said, self-diagnosed, I think I've got PTSD. And this is something that we're seeing. There's a lot of research around it. Is because of the lockdown, because of the isolation, a lot of people with no history of trauma in the past are now experiencing PTSD-like symptoms.
Yeah.
And we can enable people to let go of those and get rid of them really quickly. So I think, as we go back into the world, whether it be a virtual world, whether it be a physical world, the people that are leading have got to have that sorted in themselves. You can't go in and have a flashpoint. You can't, have somebody say something and you, as a leader, burst into... I think the thing, actually, Jerry, I've just thought about this. This is something that I really got when I was doing the veterans program. And I think this is really important now for leaders, is empathy, not sympathy.
Yeah.
And I remember I was doing a program for the veterans program, and I just picked up, because I've got, I'm the front of the room.
Yeah.
I've got other trainers now, and I've got coaches in the back of the room, and I just got that the coaches in the back of the room were feeling sorry for the people in the room. And I went okay, time out, we're having a break. Guys, you've got a 15-minute break. Coaches, out with me, out the back of the the venue where nobody could hear. And I just picked up, you guys feel sorry for these people. Oh, David, well, this guy's told me this person's told me this person's told me this. And they started crying.
Mm.
And I went, you need to get yourself sorted out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you feel sorry for these people, then in actual fact, what you're doing is disempowering them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what we're here for. We're here for empowering them.
Yeah.
So, empathy, not sympathy. Either you let your sorriness for these guys go, or you leave. And if I end up running this program on my own, I will do. And I can do that.
Yeah.
And
it's also great advice for coaches out there who, this concept of, if your client comes in a hole, the last place you want to be is down in the hole with them. Yeah. You want to throw them a ladder, throw them a rope. You need to have an appreciation of what it's like to be in that hole, but you don't need to get in to get that. You can look in. I mean, I'm using the metaphor. But what your job is to get them out of that hole, so they can be whole again. If you pardon me taking the metaphor a bit further.
Oh, I like that.
You're not allowed to use that. That one's...
Jerry, can I borrow it?
I'll be going on one of your trainings in 2 years' time, and you'll be talking about that. I'll listen. I think I might have repackaged a few of yours over the years.
Jerry, it's not called modelling. It's not called borrowing it. It's called modelling, isn't it, in NLP?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So now we get to this point. Okay, so there's the inner thing, right? And state management, let's just explain to people what that means, and then let's get to the outer, because then you can take it into those other more visible skill sets. So just explain to people, what is state management and why is it so important for everything we do?
Well, when we talk about state in NLP, that's an NLP buzzword. It's kind of like what mood you're in. Are you in a good mood? Are you in a bad mood? Are you in a good state or are you in a bad state? And, whenever I ask people, do you behave differently when you're in a good mood than when you're in a bad mood? Everybody always says, I behave differently, yeah. Which one gets the better results? Obviously, the behavior you do when you're in a good mood gets you better results. Mm-hmm. The majority of people don't know how to change their mood, change their state. NLP teaches that. So, 5 minutes before we came on, when my screen went again on my MacBook Pro. Was I in a bad mood? Yes. Did I have to change my mood to do this interview? Yes. So that's one of the things that NLP teaches you, how to manage your mood when you've got to perform. I know you know this, Jerry, but I realized I didn't get to have a bad day anymore when I decided to become a professional speaker, presenter, and trainer. It's not that your delegates, your audience, or students don't care about you, but actually they don't. So people are paying me money. And if I rocked up on stage and went like, I've had a bad day, didn't sleep much last night, do you mind if we take it easy today? I think you probably know what they'd say. Well, you'd say it.
Yes.
David, get a grip.
Yes.
Get yourself sorted out. You're teaching this stuff.
Only thing, they'll never get that opportunity in one of your trainings. That's the problem. because they'll never get that experience of David turning up in an unresourceful mood or a state.
No.
But unpack that for our. So basically, people come to your trainings because they paid the money and they expect
me to rock up with bells on.
Yeah.
Every day, all the time. So what's the quickest way of doing that? The biggest thing that changes your emotional state is your physiology, your body. And the biggest thing out of your physiology that changes your state more than anything else is your breathing. There is a big difference between the breathing of anxiety and fear than the anxiety of personal power, of being balanced. Anxiety is... And, eventually that will have a physical impact and you'll have a panic attack. Whereas the breathing of personal power is... which actually comes from Huna rather than from than NLP. It's called the Ha breath. But the other thing is how you use your vision.
Yes.
So when people are in stress, which could be anxiety, could be fear, could be any of the range of negative emotions, they're in tunnel vision. They're focusing in on the thing that's making them anxious or whatever it may be. So there is a neurological switch that when you put yourself into peripheral vision, which is the vision that you're in when you're driving your car, or hopefully should be, where you have your awareness around the entire car, then that switches your body into parasympathetic nervous arousal, which is the relaxation response.
Yeah.
And immediately you do that, the anxiety, the fear, whatever it is, will just melt away.
Yeah. And when you combine them, David, it's very powerful. And not only that, but it gives you energy. The indirect thing of it is, when you do the Ha breathing with people, you ask them what's happening now. At the end, that you say, "Who's feeling relaxed?" Hands go up, and then you say, "Who's feeling loads of energy?" The same hands go up, and they go, how does that happen? You go, because you've just recalibrated. You just reset.
You've reset your neurology. And I've done some research about this. I couldn't really explain it before. It worked, but I couldn't really give people a logical, rational, sensible reason why it worked. And putting yourself into peripheral vision rather than foveal, and deep diaphragmatic breathing, like the heart breath, puts you into a state called coherence.
Yeah.
Which is where the brain in your head, or the three brains in your head, and the brain in your heart actually use the word earlier, resonate.
Yes.
They are in coherence. They're in rapport. And that's a high-performing state.
Yes.
And those two very, very simple things do that.
Yeah. And so for people who are listening now, the inner part is really cleaning out the negative emotions, cleaning out beliefs that are getting in the way, and then learning these tools and techniques so you can get yourself into a resourceful
Emptying the glass.
Emptying the glass and being able to be, well, the first thing you need to know about states is you need to know what your resourceful states are in the first place. So that's self-modeling, right? And then being able to activate those states when you need them. Now, let's take it to the outer leader now, which is the part where people see that manifesting itself in a room. And I'm going to share with something, because you talked about going on a practitioner training many years ago for yourself, and you ended up signing up for everything. I went on a presenting magically course. I went on a presenting magically course many years ago because I wanted to improve my skills in the room, training and stuff like that. And I ended up becoming an NLP trainer a few months later because I went, whoa, this is the tip of the iceberg. I want to go the full way. And it wasn't one of those preordained things, but it played into a lot of things aligned for me in that process. But now let's take this to the outer leader, because that's the bit that everybody wants. They want the bolt-on. They want the super cool hot dude that walks into the room and wows everybody. And you're saying, no, get the inner stuff. But let's talk about how the outer stuff then comes into play on top of that.
Well, I looked at this thing about influence, and, it was as a result of going. In life, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you influence. Because, I'll have 100 people in the room and go like, how many of you here totally believed you deserved the sale, you deserved the job, you deserved the pay rise, you deserved the promotion, you deserved the girl, you deserved the guy, whatever, and then you didn't get it? And every single person puts their hand up in the room. So everybody's had that experience. So that's really what had me look at this thing called influence, the ultimate life skill. We're not taught it at school. But that's the ultimate life skill. And I had to look outside of the world of NLP. So I looked at neuroscience. And when somebody's because influence really is about somebody making a decision and following up the decision with action.
Yeah.
Not just a decision, action. So I looked at that. I looked at neuroscience and with the latest developments in that. And what really comes out of that is it's about emotional engagement. It's not about logic, rationality, and sense. We don't do sensible things. Well, I certainly don't. What about you?
No. Only when I want to be sensible, but that's not that
often. You're more logical, rational, and sensible than I am, Jerry. So then I looked at Cialdini, 6 Rules of Influence with his monumental book, which I'd recommend to anybody.
Yeah.
But you read through the book and there's no how. No. There's lots of facts, figures, all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't actually tell you how to do it.
No.
Well, NLP is the how.
Yeah.
How do you create emotional engagement? Then I looked at cold reading, the likes of Derren Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a master influencer? Absolutely. How does he do what he does? Well, there's this thing called cold reading, which is how to be able to read people. And then there's hypnosis. Ericksonian hypnosis particularly. And I thought, is that the ultimate form of influence? Somebody would go along and see Milton Erickson, who'd been doing a particular behavior that they didn't want to do anymore for maybe 10, 15, 20 years. They spend a couple of hours in a room with Erickson, and he'd influence them to change their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the ultimate form of influence? And I thought, yeah, it is. So I started looking at Ericksonian hypnosis, because I've been teaching that for 28 years,
mm-hmm.
but only in the context of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I went, what if we take it outside of the context of therapy? And then I discovered somebody else had got there first. That's in my Masters of Influence training. But I wasn't the first there. Because what I discovered was Tony Blair, when he did his announcement about Princess Diana dying in Paris. Actually, we're on pretty much up to an anniversary, aren't we now? And to their wedding, or her wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And Barack Obama. And so in my Method of Influence, I actually teach people, and then I show them the videos. And the things they've seen over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But now they go like, oh, wow. Now I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Even Donald Trump.
Yep.
Donald Trump is a master Ericksonian hypnotist.
That's right.
And a lot of
I've been
people
saying that to people for years. I've been saying there isn't one sentence. They say he doesn't speak coherently. There's no finished sentences. Exactly.
And I've got, when I go out and train out in the States, you've got a diametrically opposed audience. 50% love him, 50% hate him. And the haters go like, no, he's an idiot. He's stupid.
Mm.
To which I go, so it worked then?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what he wanted you to think.
Right.
It's the ultimate distraction technique. And, I mean, you know this, Jerry, but his handshake is based on a very, very, very unknown Dave Elman technique.
Yes.
And it's not an accident. Whether you like his politics or not, the guy is not an idiot. He's very, very, very clever.
Yeah, no, I think his hypnotic language patterns are actually, somebody should model them, even if they don't like him, just to be able to explain to people how he has been able to achieve what he achieved on both sides of the aisle. I mean, the people who love him, they don't know why they love him either, but if they understood it, maybe it also helps them. And the people who don't like him, maybe understanding what's going on as well. But here, the thing is, so you bring all that together into the Masters of Influence, and then how does that then, for the people who go on that program, what are they able to do afterwards that they maybe couldn't do coming into that program? When they get out into the real world then, what sorts of things have you seen or heard about them doing?
Well, I think the thing is with people are going to go, right, I need to get myself sorted out, which we would do with our Fix Your Mind weekend, 2 days. Release all your negative emotions, get rid of your limiting beliefs, align your values, etc. Set goals about where you want to go. Then Masters of Influence, what I actually do with that is I go to people and go like, okay, so who do you want to influence? And what do you want to influence them to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I put them up on the board right at the start. And that's that, you know, obviously there's the content, but what I do is I design the training around their outcomes. And it might be I want to influence my team, I want to influence people to buy from me. But, you know, I had one lady, bless her, and, you know, I'm going around, everybody's going like, well, I want to influence my customers to buy more, I want to influence my team to perform better, or whatever. And there's this one lady, and she just goes, well, I'm not here for anything like these people. I just want to influence my daughter to stop smoking. Bless her. And so every single exercise that we do in that 3-day program is around achieving those goals. So when she left after 3 days, she had all of the strategies in place to influence, because she'd realised already as a mum that your kids don't do what you tell them.
Really? Oh.
Jerry, I'm sorry.
Why didn't you tell me that 15 years ago, David?
So she left with all these strategies of exactly what to do, because she'd said to her daughter, stop smoking is bad for you, you know. And her daughter obviously had ignored her. And she just put all of these strategies into place. And she contacted me the week later and she said, okay, she stopped smoking.
Wow. Very good.
You know, we can go, right, I want to do £1 million in sales. I want to get my team to be a high performing team. But that lady, and she must have been, she was probably in her 60s, I think. That one just sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
If you can,
and I mean, if you can achieve that.
If you can influence somebody to do that, then.
We finish our conversation with David providing a few key tips on how to improve your self-leadership and influence. Just rounding this out, getting to the end, what people may not realize is that the early part of NLP was based on working and modeling therapists, and then it eventually made its way into more mainstream things. And it was because it was like, if you could get people to change ingrained habits, you know, it must be possible to get people to improve their sales performance or whatever it is they're trying to do, or, you know, whatever performance or whatever other things in their life they were trying to do. A lot of people don't realize that, I think. They think NLP is some little bag of tricks, and you go in there for a few days and you come out with a bag of tricks. And most people who go with that attitude don't come out that way. If they go on your trainings, they come out completely remodeled by themselves. But they get a bit of a shock, those people, when they walk in and they realize, actually, this is not about this external stuff. This is about me, learning about me before I learn any of this other stuff. So if there were a couple of tips you could leave our guests with today, because we're coming up to, we've just, I think, crossed the hour. So let's just package now down into, I'll put a whole bunch of references in the show notes and how to contact you and everything. But what were a couple of key things people could just immediately after this, they listen to this and they go, okay, what could they do?
Well, I think three things. One is, if you're not in your own personal optimum state, stop what you're doing and get your state right first. So that would be around breathing and around your vision.
Yeah.
So deep, rhythmical. Breathing. I've got, you know, I'm sure I've got some links around that kind of stuff. Then vision. If you're not in the optimum state, you're not in peripheral vision, or what we call from Huna Hakalau, you're in foveal vision, you're in tunnel vision. So stop, sort your breathing out, put yourself into peripheral vision. That's two things. Then I think the biggest thing, really, from an influence point of view, which is so simple, is say it the way you want it. You know, I work with sales teams, and they send out sales letters or emails. And I just go through the letter and just cross out all the knots and say, does that still say what you want it to say? And they go, no. I said, well, that is what you're saying. You know, you're like me. We run our own businesses. We get a lot of sales pitches, right? Mm-hmm. And I get letters to this day that still sign off saying, please do not hesitate to contact me.
Yes.
Well, I still am.
That's right.
These are really simple things. And we can get into way, way, way more clever things and all that kind of stuff. But those things are, the thing that will make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And they're simple.
So get your breathing sorted. Peripheral vision. It'll take a little bit of practice with peripheral vision, but if you practice it, you'll recognize the state and you'll be able to get into it and actually stay in it as much as you can. And then thirdly, this whole thing about
don't think of a blue tree.
Don't think of a blue tree. And everybody's thinking of blue trees out there. So with green oranges on them. So people need to if you say it the way you want people to interpret it, and if you want them to act, make sure that it's clear what that intention is.
You tell them what you want them to do.
David, you and I probably could talk for hours on this, and at a certain point we'd run out of airtime. I hope our listeners have got some useful insights here today. The key thing is, I'll put some links there. You got some programs coming up in the autumn. I think I know you do intro programs. I know you're doing full programs now. There's a wealth of stuff to go on your website, and I know your team are very open to having a chat with anybody who
absolutely
says, well, I might do this, I might do that, and you'll try to find the right starting point for those people. So without further ado, thanks for sharing all these insights and wisdom with us today, and I hope our listeners really got something powerful out of this.
Great. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. You'll find details of what we covered in the show with links, etc. in the show notes. Please share your key takeaways from today's guest and let your friends and colleagues know about the podcast. Oh, and if there's a particular author or leading thinker you'd like me to interview, just get in touch and I'll do my best to get them on the show. This episode was brought to you by Wide Circle, helping you make better talent decisions. To learn more, visit widecircle.eu. That's WIDECIRCLE.eu. Until next time.